Banner, how you feeling tonight? I know you've had like 5 beers or so, but you still think you're good to hang out?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was the 37 hot dogs that I paired with it. My stomach is fucked up. I think I'm gonna have to bow out, man.
Damn. All right, well, that sucks, but I hope you feel better. All right, Horns, I guess it's just me and you tonight, so be me and you splitting an Uber.
No. We need to circle back. We can't leave him behind. Whoopa, whoopa.
Okay, maybe you should stay home.
Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. I am your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. This is our review of Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 7, titled Dreams and Madness, which was also the theme of my bachelor party, so that's cool. I am joined, as always, by the mad scientist Brian Banner and the American hero Nate Thurman to review this episode, as we do all of our television episodes, using the 4 Bro Force Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then any theories and questions in the series going forward. We begin with the acting and cast. Nate Thurmond, I will throw it to you. Ahsoka finally back in her own show.
Yeah.
Think of the performances in Episode 7.
Yeah, good to have the namesake of the show finally back in it after being in it for like a minute in Episode 6. But I think they made up for it, in my opinion, honestly, because the highlight for me was Rosario Dawson. She came in, and there was a visible change in her demeanor and how she was acting and moving throughout the episode. You saw kind of like a fire and an anger within her. I know it was taking an episode off because it was 2 episodes where we got her and Anakin interacting, but that really changed her, I think, to the core, and I think she did a great job through like the lightsaber fights and just through any of the dialogue and any interaction she had. She had that drive to go forward. So now that she's back, that was the one that really stood out to me, even with like some newcomers coming into the episode.
Yeah, and I'll touch on this in a second, but I think, Nathan, I'm echoing on your screen. Never mind, I don't hear it now. One complaint I think a lot of people will have about this show is Ahsoka's name is obviously on the, she's the title character, but I don't feel like her, even though she's had a lot of screen time, I still don't feel like her arc is the one that we're following closely. I know that emotionally
we'll get to this later. We will get to this later. I promise.
All the stuff with her
Get
and
your popcorn
Anakin,
ready. Actually, it's not going to be that bad.
all the stuff with her and Anakin have been great, but like I don't feel like she's the primary focal point of this show, which could be okay because, again, Boba Fett, when it worked, he was actually not the main focal point of his own show. But yeah. I don't know if it's going to work here, I guess.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that, and I think they just needed a familiar vehicle to the masses to get to where we're going. So I completely understand where you're coming from on that, and I don't disagree with it. But I think this is the way they had to go about it, just to get everyone to buy in on it.
Yeah. All right, Banner, we had Amon Esfandi showing up playing your boy Ezra Bridger. What did you think about him or anyone else in the acting and cast?
Again, I think he did pretty well for an Ezra Bridger that we haven't seen in 15 years, something like that. I mean, he went from a teenager to a full-grown man now. But you could tell he hasn't really had a whole lot of interaction with humans. Just with the way that he talked, he was still kind of a naive. I don't want to say naive, but he was very childlike in the way that he talked from being stranded. And I thought he did a really good job of really capturing the cadences and stuff that Ezra had in Rebels.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about the fact that he's been with the Noti for the better part of like a decade and a half. And I obviously don't have I haven't seen Rebels for the listeners at home, so I don't have that baseline or that perspective to work off of. But I thought he was pretty good. I will say the acting in this show has been just really disjointed. Like the people that I've liked, like Ray Stevenson as Baylan, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, have been really, really good. And then the people that I have had issues with have gotten worse. Like Natasha Liu Bordizzo, she might be a great actor, but dude, this was bad.
Not in this.
It was bad.
She has the same face in every screen, and it looks like she's like constipated.
Well, she's not even asked to do much.
She's just fucking whiny the entire time.
And like the Ezra and her reunion, they really didn't play it like with too much emotion, which I was a little surprised by because based on like everything she did to get to this point, I thought that there would have been like more of like a moment when they reunited with each other.
I think that's the best that they could get out of her.
Well, I was gonna say even how subtle they played it, I was like, dude, what do you do? Like people don't act. The facial expression she's giving and stuff, I'm like, people don't act like this around other people. It's rough. And in a show where her character has probably been, and maybe this is the problem, her character has probably been given like some of the biggest emotional scenes outside of like that one episode where it was Ahsoka and Anakin interacting. Like she's just fumbled the ball, I feel like. Nate, one last thing. I know last week you were reasonably so singing the praises of Ray Stevens and as Baylan. What did you think about him this episode? We didn't get much of him, but like always, he really leaves an impact with pretty much any dialogue that he gets.
Yeah, we didn't get too much of him. I mean, he still played kind of a key role, even in the scenes he wasn't in, with Thrawn's discussion of him and kind of the plans moving out the way they are. But yeah, like even his limited interaction with him and Ahsoka was great. He's still playing that dominant figure, and I think he's playing it pretty well. And their lightsaber scene was a pretty good standout from this episode.
They always leave me wanting more when he fights Ahsoka.
Oh yeah,
lightsabers.
Yeah.
Anytime he's on the screen, I want more. Like he is, in my opinion, the most interesting character of the entire show. There's so much mystery with him, and he always leaves me wanting more.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean that's a great point to drive home, because I think we talked about it last review, like where he could go or like where his mindset is. We don't really know. He's keeping it pretty close to his chest. He's had a couple dialogues that have revealed a little bit, but even when we got into theories and questions a little bit, we're like, he could stay on the dark side. He could go to the light side. We don't know, and we could see that shift in the last couple episodes here.
He's a free agent at the end of the year, so if he doesn't get a contract,
contract's up.
Contract year.
You know, that's why
all right, ready to move on. Story and plot. Ready to move on.
Let's do it.
All right. So once again, IMDb just kind of like, it's like, did you just watch the first scene of this and then that's what you wrote it off of? Because the plot synopsis on there says Hera must answer to the New Republic while a reunion takes place far, far away. And yes, Hera is in the episode. That was like a 4 or 5 minute scene, and then
that's like,
really disjointed.
That's the most mundane plot synopsis for like something that was 5% of the episode.
Right.
What?
So I just wrote down Ahsoka finally shows up. I don't know do we know the name of this planet?
Perdia.
Didn't we? Yeah.
We had this
last
discussion last episode. It was,
right.
Yeah, we got deep in the woods.
Yeah, Peridia. That's right. So Ahsoka arrives on Peridia, and then we sort of set up. There's really like now 3 sides, because I don't think Baylan and Shin trust Thrawn at all. So it's Baylan and Shin versus Thrawn versus Ahsoka and team, and all that is sort of coming to a head here for the final episode. So, Banner, what did you think of the story and plot here in episode 7?
I liked it. I thought it was good. This was perfect to set up this final episode next week. The pacing of this episode, and really the show in general, I thought has been pretty good. Every episode, for the most part, has been equal parts character development, action and fighting, and moving the story along. And I thought this episode was kind of that bottleneck point where all those kind of start coming to a head, right? I think Nate mentioned Ahsoka's demeanor is different now. That's from her experiences in the last few episodes. We have Sabine has now met with Ezra, and they're being hunted by Baylan or not Baylan. Again, I don't understand what his motives or anything is. Mm-hmm. And then we obviously have Thrawn, who is always one step ahead, and realizes Thrawn is gone and is still a step ahead, transporting those coffins into his ship.
Yeah. So what are those again?
We don't know. I have speculated, and I've read some stuff and watched some YouTube videos that they're coffins of Night Sisters, and they want to bring them back to the OG galaxy to repopulate, I guess, the Night Sisters and of Dathomir and stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that was going to be in my theories in question, and maybe it may have been a dumb one because I was going to phrase it as I may have missed it in the episode if they said.
I feel like they're.
I don't think they said. I think they just said
cargo.
It's just cargo. So it's still up in the air. They just look like coffins, and I thought that was a really cool theory, being that he's working with the Night Sisters, and that's how that's been his medium to get back.
Well, and that plane is where all like their lore and myth came from.
Exactly.
So it makes sense and ties in. But I'll jump in real quick and just comment on one piece of the plot and story that is stayed tried and true through Rebels and everything, just Thrawn's overall demeanor and his mindset. But in that scene, when he's talking to the sister and Ahsoka is being distracted, basically, he's like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's fine. Like, time is the thing she's running out of. And like, that's all I was trying to do because we got all the cargo loaded and we're going to fucking get out of town now. Like, he wasn't even really worried about like having that grand battle with her at all. He was like, I just want to like slow her down a little bit so I can do this thing, but I'm going to play it this way so everyone thinks I'm doing this, but really the right hand's doing this and the left hand's doing this. So still 10 steps ahead at every point.
He's a master tactician.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's pretty great. The only thing I wrote down, maybe not necessarily with story and plot, but CGI in this episode I thought was a little bit rough, like especially where they're on, I don't know what, like Mammoth back or whatever when they're riding.
Yes. Yeah. When Ahsoka rode away, that was really.
Yeah, it felt like when you were playing like a racing game on N64 and you can tell that like the environment is moving and not your car.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they filmed this in the volume or not, but it definitely didn't feel like it because it felt much more green screen than the volume typically does. But again, I don't have a master eye. Any of that stuff.
That and I really hadn't thought about this until you brought it up. But when in the Baylan Ahsoka fight, the ship comes in and like fires some blasters at the ground, and he kind of comes up out of the smoke. I kind of got that same feel. It was like it felt disjointed a little bit. It didn't seem as fluid as some of the CGI's felt in the past.
Yeah, speaking of that scene, Hu Yang was being just way too fucking cavalier with like shooting on the like. Yes, there are enemies there, but Ahsoka's also standing in the middle of all of them, and he's just like fucking unloading on the whole battle.
Yeah.
There were some really cool visuals in this episode. One of them, just like a small part, and then we can move on to best scene, was when Ahsoka like slid down the boarding ramp onto the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
that was cool.
That was.
I
nice.
also really liked, and again, this kind of goes to the fact that Ezra has been marooned there by himself, but the way that he fought using the Force with the Force pushes and the Force pulls and shit.
And he has like some of the strongest Force pushes I've seen in Star Wars.
Yeah, like you can't even do that in like the video games.
It's like Randy Johnson, where he's like, once I get to 2 strikes, I'm just gonna throw the slider and it's all over. Ezra's like, fuck the lightsaber, watch this Force push. Like, they can know it's coming and they still can't hit it.
Yeah, but I thought that was really cool, and that's how he uses he defends himself.
Yeah. So yeah, the one small, just stupid little gripe I have is related to that. Whenever that battle scene starts, Sabine tries to give him a lightsaber, tries to give him a blaster. He's like, "No, I'm good." Halfway through the fight, he fucking steals one from a stormtrooper.
I know.
Using like, what do you? Okay, come on, just a little continuity thing. And I was like, okay.
Do you think, especially with the lightsaber, it was more about him wanting Sabine to use it and less about him not wanting to use it?
Maybe.
Maybe some indignancy there because Ahsoka has taken her on as like a Padawan, quote unquote, and there was a little tension there in that. So maybe he's like, no, I don't want that. You use it. You're the Jedi now. So
Well, and then maybe also playing devil's advocate here, maybe he just didn't feel comfortable with the lightsaber. It's been 15 plus years since he's touched one of those things. Like, I wouldn't want to be around him swinging that thing around.
Yeah,
that's true.
Could be a little bit of that.
All right, ready to move on to best scene.
Do it.
All right, I'm going to steal Nate's that he mentioned, not steal his, but the one he mentioned earlier. I just loved when Thrawn was watching the fight on like Gamecast from up in the Star Destroyer. Anything with the Night Sisters, I pretty much loved anyway. Whether it was Morgan Elsbeth or the scene with the three of them where they put on like the laser light show for everyone. I think just because the Night Sisters in Clone Wars are so visually cool to me, they have like an aesthetic and like this color palette that we hardly ever see in Star Wars, and they're creepy as shit. And to see them adapted in live action is really, really badass. It's also kind of the same reason, and I'm glad they mentioned her here, but like I've always been curious what Asajj Ventress would have looked like in live action, because she has sort of a similar look to them in the face, and so anytime they're in it, coupled with Thrawn, just because like everything with him is really interesting to me right now.
I'll be curious if the Night Sisters bring in some form later on. It obviously won't be in this show, but later on in live action shows, if they bring her back, Ventress.
Ooh, I'm sure you caught it, both you guys, but did you hear when Anakin was mentioning her in the hologram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool throwback to Clone Wars.
Oh yeah. That was just Filoni like fan servicing all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nate, what was your best scene?
Mine was one we touched on just a second ago a little bit, but the start of the Sabine Ezra fight was my favorite scene. It kind of morphs into, I think there's a cutaway and then come back where Ahsoka comes in, but specifically that beginning. And I think it has a lot to do with what we just talked about a second ago, is him using the Force and him denying taking a blaster at the beginning or a lightsaber. But I think that was kind of set up there to show that, okay, it's been a decade or so. We've been away. This doesn't necessarily mean Ezra has lost his touch. He still has a lot of that Force sensitivity in him. And maybe perhaps he has been training in that practice and keeping that going. So that was a cool little insight into that. And hopefully that's what they're trying to set up here, is making sure that the audience knows that, hey, he still has this. He probably has been working on it on the planet while he's been with whatever the little fucking turtle things are.
Woopa
Did they have a name?
The Noties.
No, I couldn't even remember if we got a name from them. But anyways, yeah, the start of that, and like, yeah, you see him use the Force push. Like, I don't want to say like more than anyone we've ever seen, but
have we ever seen it in live action?
It was pretty aggressive, and it was badass.
We've never seen it in live action, right?
No, I don't think so. You've seen like Vader like pick people up and like throw them like a couple feet, but like he pushed people back like 10, 12, 15 feet.
Oh yeah, no, he like Force pushed through that dude's heart.
The one time
Go ahead, Horns.
The one time I know we saw it was in Phantom Menace. Either Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan used it to push like a bunch of battle droids when they get to feed.
Oh yes, that's come on.
Pussies. Yeah,
that's like spring training. It doesn't count.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, Ezra was not fucking around, and like Nate said, like he's not been just like twiddling his thumbs while he's been on this planet. So some shit has been going on with his training, I'm sure. So it'll be really interesting to see like where he comes out. Plus, I mean, maybe I'm just misreading it because I don't know the character as well, but he seemed like really nonchalant and like jovial about seeing Sabine for the first time in like 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, it just felt like a really muted like way less than I would have thought. But she reacted the same way. So I don't know if they're both like trying not to be like over the top and like freaking the other one out how excited they are to see them. But it just did not feel like two friends that traveled literally through space and time to see each other after a decade and a half.
Yeah, and I guess playing devil's advocate against that to support their reaction. I guess kind of what Banner was saying earlier, like he played Ezra like Ezra, and he still had that childish, jovial nature. So almost kind of a naivety of like, oh, someone's going to find me, I'll be fine. And then they finally show up and like, yeah, of course, I knew Sabine or someone was coming to find me. So maybe that's what it was, that like this was a pointed effort to play that way and play like a child still, even though he's grown up quite a bit, just in that effort of saying, hey, yeah, I know people are going to come find me. I'm going to chill here for 10 years. They're going to come here and we're going to pick up like we left off. So that could be how it was kind of directed to play. I don't know.
Yeah, because even though he says, like, is Ahsoka coming? They act like they got a table for 3 at Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, she's going to be here in a minute. Because
or should we go to a high top?
Do we have time for apps or just straight to the meal?
Well, let's order some, and then if she comes, that's great. But we'll get the dips. We'll get the dip platter, actually, if we can bring that around. All right, Banner, what was your favorite scene?
Well, you guys actually took my 2 favorite scenes. So I will just say a little honorable mention. I did really like the Ahsoka training episode with Anakin walking around. His look was early Clone Wars look, which was cool. He had the battle armor on. And then him talking about, it's not always going to be droids. It's going to be Dooku. It could be Ventress. It could be this person. It could be that. And like, it felt, I don't know. It was just really cool to see him training her again, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And again, it was just Dave Filoni, just fan service jizzing all over our faces. And I loved it.
I mean, that well is not going to dry up. So they can go to the Anakin Ahsoka well as many times as they want. And it'll still be interesting for me.
And we didn't even mention the fan service of 3PO showing up too.
Oh, yeah. Anthony Daniels came back.
Yeah.
And I just love Genevieve Morton as Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, yeah. She's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question about that scene here in a second. So, are we ready to move on to theories and questions? Did you guys
do it?
All right. I'll go first. This is actually a ranking that I want us to do because as they were all fighting in the end, I was just getting very curious. So, can you guys rank these 5 people who are Force users in the show in terms of their abilities with the Force, strongest to weakest? So, the 4 are Shin, Ezra, Baylan, Ahsoka, and Sabine. So, Banner, I'll let you go first. Give me your power rankings of the 5 Force users in the show, 1 to 5. I think Sabine is, we can all agree, the weakest, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Going bottom to top, I would say Sabine, Shin, Ezra, Baylan, Ahsoka.
Okay, that was my same ranking. Nate, how about you?
I was just typing those out so I could have them here. Sorry, Banner, I was typing this out. Say yours again, Banner.
Okay, top to bottom. I'm going to backwards it now. Ahsoka.
So 5 to 1?
No, 1 to 5.
Now it's 1 to 5 for some reason.
1 to 5.
Okay. Ahsoka is the strongest Force user.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Baylan is second.
Okay.
I'm going to say Ezra is third, Shin is fourth, and Sabine is fifth.
Same, but switch Baylan and Ahsoka.
You think Baylan is more powerful than Ahsoka?
He's holding back. He's reserving himself.
Ahsoka literally came back from the dead.
He comes from the old Jedi Order. He comes from the old shit. He knows stuff.
I have 3 scouting reports on these guys. To Nate's point, I have Baylan second, but I did also put he's pulling his punches.
He's holding back.
I have Ezra at 3, but I also said he is the biggest dark horse. Like he could have the most helium of anyone in this group because we don't know what the fuck he's been doing on the planet for so long. And those Force pushes.
I know what he's been doing. I'll tell you what he's been doing.
Masturbating? Is that why his forearms are so strong?
Well, I mean, only in his free time.
And then
he's got a lot of it.
Shin, I think the gap between Ezra and Shin is pretty big. Her stock.
Ooh, really?
I was going to say small.
I was going to say small.
See, to me, her stock really dropped this episode. She got pretty exposed. I felt like if given enough time, Sabine might have been able to kick her ass.
That's a good point. She ran away at the end. I get it.
I don't know. Sabine's already lost to her twice.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's why I'm like, I don't know if she just had a bad weak or if Sabine just scouted her really well in the interim, because
it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season.
That's true. Because she whooped Sabine's ass on that Dark Forest planet, and then here, I don't know if she's like nursing an injury we don't know about or what, but it felt like, and I know Ezra was there too, but it felt like a fair fight basically between her and Sabine, when before it was like she was basically like playing with her food last time they fought.
That was thank you. That was an interesting prompt there. I like that.
Yeah, I like the rankings game. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. I realized like towards the end, I was like, damn, there's a lot of Force users in this show. And then when Ezra started like shoving people all over or like shooting people all over the place, I was like, is he like the most powerful? And then I was kind of backtracked off that. I was like, I don't know, but he's definitely the one I would be most afraid to play at a neutral site.
He's got the highest ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Decently high floor too.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
All right, Nate, how about you? We'll do a little round robin.
So I guess I just have one main theory here, and I think this kind of carries over from the last episode review, because I wanted an explanation to explain how. Yeah, that was. I was like pausing. I was like, "Why?" I'm going to say explain again. I want to see how we could get Ezra and any of the characters in this into the next trilogy that's going to be coming out, which is post Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I like that theory on the last review you did.
The timeline doesn't match up as well, so I am having an audible here, and I'm liking how this is going because Ezra wants to get home. So I think they're making a big point on that. Since they're making a big point on it, I don't think it's going to happen as seamlessly as he wants it to happen. So I want to see them go to another galaxy, different from where they are, different from the OG. That'll give them some time separate from some of the other movies, and then they can come back into the thread, into canon, and into this next trilogy that's going to happen. So
who are they going to know that would still be alive then?
Banner, this is half baked. I don't know. I just want to get them into this next trilogy.
Yeah.
Do you mean like past the sequel trilogy, Banner? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Isn't that when the next trilogy is happening? Is past the sequel trilogy?
Yes.
Past Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So that's my other question too, kind of tying into what Nate said. Did we figure out like when the sequel trilogy starts? I'm assuming right now Kylo Ren is what, like 4 or something, or 5?
I think we talked about this like in Mando reviews. Yeah, like around 5 or 6, somewhere around there. I think him and Rey are about the same age, I'm guessing.
So the Empire pretty recently fell, right? Like a few years ago.
I would say within the last 5 years, probably it fell.
So what's the gap between that and then the First Order starting up? Because I'm trying to figure out if Moff Gideon is trying to start up the First Order, or if him and Thrawn both have like different nefarious plans that both fizzle out and then the First Order rises.
I would say there's probably another 15-ish years.
That's exactly what I was about to say. 15 years.
To Force Awakens.
Because it's been around a while, and then I would say Kylo and Rey are probably mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
During the movies, during the trilogy.
I'll tell you how we get there.
Figure out the next. Okay, how?
Well, first off, I'm going to go back to something that we said earlier. As you said, how powerful is Ezra? What's he been doing here? Kanan has been training him. Yeah, Kanan Jarrus, the dead guy. But Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan from the dead, right?
True.
So Anakin has been back in this series.
See? So why can't Kanan train Ezra? All right, put that in your back pocket for a minute.
In the planet of the dead Purgles.
Yeah. Sort of unrelated, but last episode, you did say that you had read Freddie Prinze Jr. Did he say he wouldn't come back, or he hasn't been asked to come back?
I believe it was he has not been asked to come back, nor would he come back, I believe.
Interesting.
But I'm going to pretend that I didn't say that, nor did I hear that. So,
okay.
I think that we're going to end up back at the original galaxy, far, far away. I think Ahsoka is going to die in the next episode. I think that's why she is no longer in it. I think
you have been saying that. Yeah.
I think Dave Filoni created this character, and I think he wants to end this character on his terms. And I think that Ahsoka is going to die in the next episode. I think Thrawn is going to get away, and we are going to get a live action Rebels season. Ezra and Sabine will be back in the original galaxy, team up with Hera, who we know is now has the green light to fight Thrawn from Leia. We know Zeb, they spent $1 bajillion to develop Zeb for him to not be in this. He was in literally 15 seconds of Mando.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense financially that they're going to utilize that more. And I think Thrawn is going to eventually be defeated sometime in the future. Obviously, we know that, but I think he is who is going to rebirth the First Order.
That'd be cool. I definitely think this is just the tip of the iceberg for him in live action, especially because he was mentioned at the end of the last season of Mando.
Yeah.
Which I'm still curious, and this isn't one of my questions, but I'm still curious as to how he was communicating with the people that were with Moff Gideon.
It's through the Night Sisters. He would talk to the witches, and then they talk to Morgan Elsbeth.
So those people were in contact with Morgan Elsbeth, because I thought she didn't get broken out of prison until the first episode of this series.
She was in communication with them before she got captured.
Okay, so they haven't talked for a while, but the last message they got was before Ahsoka basically apprehended her.
Yes. That's my story, and that's what I'm sticking to.
Cool. All right, I have a theory. This is really far-fetched, but also I just want to make this really stupid joke. So I think episode 8 of Ahsoka will be titled Ahsoka, and we will reveal that the cargo that Thrawn has been loading onto his ship are the fetuses that they've been growing for Snoke that he's going to bring to Moff Gideon to help with the uprising of the First Order.
I don't hate it.
So we saw a little tease of that at the end of Mando, where Moff Gideon had like some versions of cloning that was going on, and I believe that Thrawn has figured it out, and he's going to use it as basically like a way to entice Moff Gideon to work for him, and then they will lead to the rise of the First Order until they no longer serve a purpose, and they will both be taken out by Palpatine, the puppet master.
Don't hate it.
I like it. I'm trying to line it up and see if that makes sense.
I mean, it could totally make sense. Other than there's dead Night Sisters in those coffin things.
Other than Brian wants his theory to hold up.
I also have another small theory. Senator Giono, the guy who was like giving Hera a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
God, I hate that guy.
He is definitely like a Hail Hydra moment. He is part of the First Order. That motherfucker.
Oh yeah, he's in Gideon's pocket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even he's not even trying to hide it.
No.
Yeah. And sorry to like just steal all the theories and questions, but I'm kind of wondering what is really the point of Hera in this show? Is it just to introduce Jason? Because
it's to set up the next season of Rebels.
I was gonna say I'm just sort of wondering like why we even. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I like her portrayal of the character, but I'm just like, what has she really done here? They basically excluded her from like all of the cool shit, and like her even going to the planet when they were chasing Baylan, she wasn't allowed to do. So yeah, just introduce Jason and like tease Rebels.
I think so. I mean, at least I hope so, because I know we've talked about this on some of the other reviews, but the subtle emphasis they put on Jason and like his force sensitivity and like bringing him in to the fold, I think that could definitely be what it is, because I mean, they're obviously putting some effort into making him part of this. He hasn't been in the last couple episodes, but they've at least planted some seeds, and I think that could be the ultimate goal of what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, like we said, the plot device of him like recognize. What is that beeping? Who is that?
I don't know what that is.
Banner. God damn it.
This is him like he's like Han Solo after the hyperdrive breaks. It's not my fault.
Anyway.
I think the only reason that Hera is in this show is to set up future shows with the Rebels characters. Again, I think that Filoni wanted to end Ahsoka on his terms, and in order for him to get that show, he had to wrap it up with Rebels as well. And so we're learning where all the Rebels are right now, and the end of this show or this series is going to bring that group back together, with Ezra taking Kanan's role and Jason taking Ezra's role in that family unit.
Yeah.
I could also see that other dude, the captain of I have no fucking idea what is going on right now, guys. I have no idea.
Your computer's just starting to update on its own.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like making fucking noises. The X-Wing pilot. What the fuck is his name?
Captain
Carson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him possibly meeting up with them. I'm sorry.
I think it's your turn to draft in your fantasy football league. Did you have anything else? I have one more question, and I think it's a good one to end with.
Yeah, go for it.
So Banner has already made one prediction here, but with one episode left, who dies or who doesn't make it back from the world beyond worlds? What are your guesses? You can go first.
I'm not off board with Banner's idea that Ahsoka doesn't make it out of this next episode. I mean, it makes sense with his supporting theory because Filoni created her. He wants to end her. Weird statement, but I could almost see it being like hauntingly beautiful if they do it right. Like Ezra doesn't make it off. Like the whole journey was about finding him, and if they can make it to where he saves the others from escaping the planet, I could see him not making it off, and his storyline being closed. As long as there's a greater good that's kind of served in all of it, maybe Thrawn is defeated at the end of this, and that's what his final like swan song is, saving those and ending Thrawn and ending any threat that he's trying to do. So that could be one that is kind of a far-fetched one, but as long as it's done right, I could see him going off.
I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think you could have Sabine is put in the position where she has to pick, preventing the war that Hera and Ahsoka have been talking about, or saving Ezra and bringing him back, and maybe she makes the call to not save Ezra.
I'm going to make for an emotional ending.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It would be a surprise to a lot of fans too, because like you said, the focal point of the show has been finding Ezra, and then we find him and he ends up not making it off the planet. It'd be kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I think Morgan Elsbeth is going to get killed either like by Thrawn, or he'll just like leave her there basically to die. And then and I still don't know who, because I can't fucking get a read on Baylan, and I love it, but either Baylan or Shin is 100% dying. But again, I could easily see Baylan also this whole time being a double agent and actually being a Jedi, just trying to fuck with Thrawn, or he has like some other plan that we haven't seen yet.
I just don't want Baylan to die because of what you just said. Like, I want to see his plan and his ultimate goal like be played out, whatever it is. I don't give a shit. Whether it's
the most interesting character of the show.
Oh yeah, and on the review of episode 6, Nate, the way you described Baylan's his desire, his goal, I thought was so well said, because you were like, he says the Jedi have risen and fallen, the Empire has risen and fallen. He's like, I've seen it, I'm sick of that shit. Like, I want something that is sustainable. But like, what is that?
I don't know. He's got some master plan that he's not giving to everyone else, but that's why it's so intriguing. Like, he's got me reeled in. So fucking off Shin. I don't care about her. Kill her.
And every time Baylan fights too, I feel like he probably could kill the person he's fighting, but he's like, nah, I'm not today.
100%. Yes, he's holding. That's why he's at the top of my list for Force users in the show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
right, Banner,
your skill with the lightsaber and your force ability are two different things.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he do something weird with like the map too that was pretty cool with the Force?
He stabbed his lightsaber through it.
No, but I thought he did something else. Like he was like.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Banner, did anyone die besides Ahsoka that we haven't mentioned that you want to?
I agree. I think Morgan Elsbeth dies.
Does Enoch die? You think?
I don't know. I kind of like.
He'd
I
be a
kind of
cool
like
right-hand
Enoch.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'd be a cool
I'd like to
right-hand
see
man.
him make it out. I think I agree. I think Shin is gonna die, and I think Baylan is going to. I wouldn't call it exile himself to this new planet to Peridia, but I think he's gonna end up staying there.
Yeah, he's got. I mean, he's been playing us all along, and he's going to do something where we're going to be like, "Holy shit! Did not see that coming."
I think he's too ambitious to stay there.
You don't think he'll just start a bed and breakfast?
You know, the Purgles need like a warm coffee in the morning and a croissant, so maybe.
Yeah, they're like he could start like a Loves, but for Purgles.
We'll have a
Purgles. Yeah, can you make
You're gonna run a
croissant?
A Purgle funeral home?
Yeah, where they can just come and like shower and then die.
They need some closure that they haven't been getting for thousands of years.
I mean, there's a graveyard around it. Just saying.
It's a great point.
You guys have anything else from Ahsoka episode 7 before we let the people go?
I'm all tapped out.
Nope. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Last episode.
Yeah, Banner probably has to pick again in fantasy hockey or whatever here pretty soon when his draft buzzes at him. Well, one of Nate and mine's favorite words, it was the penultimate episode 7. And I think we're set up for a pretty interesting finale. I have a feeling that this show will stick the landing. I'm very cautiously optimistic. Until next time, he's the mad scientist, Brian Banner, and the American hero, Nate Thurman. I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you for listening to us. You can follow us on X or Twitter. Also on Threads, which I guess is Instagram, I think. I don't know.
Sure.
At Bro Force Squad. If you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, just the internet, you'll find us. And, of course, our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we have to go listen to this voicemail that Anakin left. Oh, the hologram.
Oh, that's fancy. Has anyone listened to it yet?
Pants are off.
Now I'm interested.
Not again.